I don't think I've been hyped for a movie like Spider-Man No Way Home in a long time. It's one of those special moments that you'll always remember for the rest of your life, and for me, oh boy am I gonna remember this first viewing, because this film was insane. Insane in a very good way, and I like to talk about it because why not? Let's make some video profits off of it. So yeah, this film came out a few weeks ago. By this time, most people have seen the film, and it's good. It's really, really good. It's $1 billion at the box office good, and this film exceeded all my expectations. It blew them out of the goddamn water. What they managed to do with the characters, the villains, the plot, the whole structure of the story, and Spider-Man's future in the MCU, it just did so much good. And there's not nearly that many bad things in this film. Like, the amount of good to bad is so overweighed that, like, it's crazy. It's really crazy. Now, full disclosure here that I will be talking about spoilers in this video, so if you don't want to get spoiled on the big major events of the film, go ahead, see the movie, come back, drop a like, and then we'll all enjoy this lovely experience together, because I don't want to be the bad person who spoiled this great momentous cinematic opus from you. You want to experience it fresh in the theater and have a good time, because it's something. So of course, No Way Home is the third entry in the MCU Spider-Man trilogy, and before we head on to No Way Home, might as well give my little thoughts on both Homecoming and Far From Home, because they exist and they're films, alright. In 2017, we got Spider-Man Homecoming, which is by far the sleekest Spider-Man film because it cuts out all the fat, no Uncle Ben, no Spider-Bite, it's just Spider-Man in his suit doing what he does best. And this film is a very good entry Spider-Man movie. The villain, being the Vulture, is very refreshing. The side characters like Ned, Tony Stark, MJ, they're all very fun characters, and all in all, it's a very good movie. Some good effects, some good music, and overall, a very good start to Tom Holland's reign as the Webhead. Then in 2019, we got Far From Home, which dealt with more of the repercussions of the post-Endgame world, with no more Tony Stark. Spider-Man needs to act really on his own, and it really does show that he's maturing as a character. You know, he goes on the school trip, you meet Mysterio, and you just go through all this fun stuff. Now, me personally, not really the biggest fan of Far From Home. It's okay, but it's not really the best in my eyes. I don't like Mysterio as a villain. I like Jake Gyllenhaal, I like him as an actor just fine, but the character of Mysterio of Quentin Beck, did not like him in this movie and just felt like a cheap little thing here. But I will say the climax at the end in London with all the drones was very cool as well, and the ending of the film does kind of bleed into No Way Home's plot, so I can't really blame it too bad, but overall, not really my favorite. And now we have No Way Home here, which is just, I think is better than both of these films combined. It's probably the best out of the MCU for me personally, just topped by Civil War, because like I said, it does so many things right, and it does not waste your time. Like, immediately you jump into it, you don't really need to have seen Far From Home to get the gist of it, because they reveal immediately, Mysterio reveals Peter Parker's identity to the world, his life becomes a mess, and because of that, he can't get into MIT, the college he always wanted to, so then he has to turn to Doctor Strange, who sets the whole motion of the multiverse in order, where they fuck up and they bring past villains to the world. And I would just say, having these past villains here is such a treat to see. I loved seeing these guys. Being a Raimi fan myself, I love seeing these guys just going at it. Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Sandman, even the Mark Webb villains like Lizard and Electro, they did such a great job not just only interacting with each other, but with Peter and Strange and all those guys as well. Now personally, if I could say my favorite villain out of this was definitely Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. I love Willem Dafoe as is, but seeing him back 20 years later as Green Goblin, as Norman freaking Osborn, was great. The way that he was, you know, doing his whole thing, he actually, we felt his split personality versus him and the Goblin, and just his whole thing with Aunt May when he actually ended up killing her was very surprising. I did not see that coming, which made him more like the main villain of the film, and he was just crazy. Now, of course, the other villains were good too. Alfred Molina's Doc Ock was fantastic. The guy didn't seem like he aged a day, although it's probably because of the de-aging technology, but he looked great. He just jumped right into that role so seamlessly, and he did a great job convincing us that, he never left. And of course, Electro by Jamie Foxx was good too. Not really the biggest Electro fan out there, but seeing that this is a major improvement from The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I'll take it. He was pretty good, and overall wasn't too bad. And those three are pretty much the main villains of the story. Yeah, you have Sandman and Lizard, but they don't really play that big of a part in there, but they're there, so that's cool. But the big thing I really like is that instead of trying to kill the villains, which is what Doctor Strange wants to happen, Peter actually tries to save them in various different means, which I thought was very interesting. He tries to help Doc Ock, fix his inhibitor chip. He tries to make a serum to reverse Green Goblin, an electric sucker thing to help Electro. He does all these things to try and help the villains, and some work, some don't initially, but they end up doing such a good job with these characters that it was a different enough story that he's not just trying to kick their ass, he wants to save them and not make them die, which was just felt like a very noble thing, because it shows that he's not a cold-blooded killer. It shows that he's a nice kid and he wants to do what's right to help these people, even if in the past they're pretty sketchy and have done some pretty bad things on their own. Now, of course, there's a few more smaller moments, like I love seeing Ned and MJ's interactions. Doctor Strange is really fun to see in there as well, doing this whole I must protect everyone and all that jazz. Charlie Cox's Daredevil made an appearance as, a lawyer, and it was really fun to see him in there as well, which means, we have Vincent D'Onofrio in Hawkeye, we have him here, so are we gonna get a Daredevil spinoff or Daredevil show right now? I don't know, but it'd be cool to see him there, and it was fun to see, him just doing this thing, not as Daredevil, but as Matt Murdock, and it was really cool to see this guy in there. Now, of course, the big thing people were talking about was the return of Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire as their respective Spider-Man. I'll be honest, this was the thing I did not expect them to do. I was bidding so low on the chances of them returning that when they did, I was like, holy shit, they did it. And it felt like a complete goddamn fever dream. As I was progressing through the film, I just was looking to myself, I'm like, I can't believe they're here. Like, this has to be fake, right? This has to be fake. But no, it was them in their suits, using their powers, and just helping out Tom Holland. And it was just great seeing them there, just doing their thing. And the chemistry between all three of them was great. The way they interacted, the way they did all their stuff was fantastic. Like, seeing them all in the lab, seeing them all on top of the school, seeing them interacting on top of the Statue of Liberty, any chance they had to talk was seamless, and it felt like they've been acting together for ages. And they all slept back into their roles so perfectly, especially for Andrew Garfield, who has his little retribution for catching MJ. It was great. I loved that little moment there, and it really worked super well. And just together, that whole climax was great, about curing the villains, having that last little standoff with Green Goblin. It was just a really good climax. I can't think of really a single bad thing in that main climax, except the ending. I have a little bit of an issue with the ending about everyone forgetting who Peter Parker is. I understand it from a narrative standpoint, but in all, it felt a bit weird, because yeah, it can help with future stories because no one knows who Peter Parker is, but this kind of negates what happened in the other films, like from Civil War until now. Like, do they know who he is? Do the Avengers know who he is? What about happened with Tony Stark? Like, it's all these things that just don't add up, and considering that some people were really close to him, like Pepper Potts and maybe Morgan and stuff like that, it just felt a bit weird that they completely made everyone forget who he was. And especially when they made MJ and Ned forget who he was. His best friends, gotta admit, that tripped me up just a tad there, but it's weird. I don't hate it, but I don't really like it either. It's a mixed bag of things, but I don't know. Marvel knows what they're doing. They have the shit all planned out, but you know what? It's okay. I have faith, but overall, I personally wouldn't have gone with that ending, but for what they did, it was okay. So really, overall, this film is very strong. Obviously, you would need to see the other films to get a full understanding of what's going on, but in general, it's a very good film. It has great characters, the returning villains are great, and overall, it feels like a grand magnum opus that Tom Holland is now Spider-Man. He's not Iron Boy Jr., he's Spider-Man, and I really love how this guy has grown into his own character, and I cannot wait to see what they're going to do with him in the future. Whether they're going to bring in new villains, merge him with the Sonyverse with Tom Hardy's Venom, who knows? Point being, I'm very, very excited for the future, and overall, this solidifies that Tom Holland is not only a great actor, but a great Spider-Man for this generation. No Way Home is a great movie for all these reasons. If you haven't seen it, go watch it, but thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.